Hello and welcome to the Stand Canada campaign launch for our brand new campaign, Why Do Refugees Pay? This is the launch event for our campaign where we are showing people what the campaign is about, who we are, and how people can get involved. So I'm going to turn it over. Tori, can you click the slide, please? Thank you. So the main agenda items for the call, it's going to be probably about 30 minutes long. We're going to go over the immigration loan program, which oversees the refugees who are brought into Canada. We're going to go over the campaign and the core elements of the campaign, specifically talk about ways for people to be involved, and leave some time for feedback and questions afterward. Initially, this video was supposed to be broadcast live on YouTube. So if you were expecting to be seeing this video live and asking questions, you can always email us at standwithus@standcanada.org or comment on the YouTube video or our Facebook event, and we'll get back to you on that. And we very much welcome any questions. Next slide. So just before we start, for those of you who are already involved with STAND, we just want to let you know kind of the structure of this campaign. So all campaigns under STAND Canada are under the purview of the Advocacy team and also the Advocacy Steering Committee. So the main chairs of the campaign are Priya Ramesh and Vincent Delaney, who are our Advocacy co-directors. All communications aspects of the campaign are under the purview of Evan Gray and Sarah Mistak, our communications co-directors, and all things related to chapters and broader community engagement, including any events related to the campaign, are under the purview of myself, Adi Burton, and Tori Fleming, the chapters co-directors. And furthermore, there's also our policy director, Katerina Todek, who's coordinating the team of researchers that we have working on this campaign. If you are interested, if you belong to another organization who's interested in collaborating with STAND on this campaign, we're currently reaching out to multiple organizations for various types of collaboration. Please do contact Priya and Vincent under Advocacy as well. Other important people to note here are Scott Fenwick, our executive director, who is just has his finger in all the pies here, and Allison Chan, she's the human resources and operations director. So if she deals with all the personnel stuff and budgeting for the campaign, as well as managing the website in a parallel role. Next slide. So are there any questions so far? Okay, great. So I'm passing it off to Priya and Vince to teach us all a little bit about the immigration loan program. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Priya Ramesh. I am co-advocacy director with Vince. I'm going to talk a little bit about the immigration loans program to begin with and how we fit into it, what this campaign is a bit about, and then hand it over to Vince, who's going to go over kind of the action items around the campaign. So just to start off with, most of you already know this, but the immigration loan program essentially assists government-assisted and privately sponsored members of the Convention of Refugees Abroad and Country of Asylum. It's intended to ensure that people unable to pay for certain costs associated with immigrating to Canada, which will include transportation and health checkups, this program acts as a funding source for them. These loans are approved based on an applicant's need and ability to repay. Now, the majority of loan recipients are resettled refugees, of whom about 60% are government-assisted refugees and about 40% are privately sponsored refugees. Now, the immigration loans program is funded through an advance of about $110 million from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. And on average, till now, $13 million of loans are issued per year, but that's only till now. We're looking to see, we're kind of projecting that this number is probably going to increase. And roughly, the average loan amount has been around $3,000, but this also is bound to go up just a little bit. Now, while the loans themselves are extremely helpful in assisting migrants reach Canada, these loans carry with them an interest rate of about 1.38%. Now, upon landing, refugees have a 30-day grace period before loan repayment must start. After an interest-free period of 12 to 36 months, based on how big the loan is, interest will begin to accrue on whatever is left of the loan amount. This is kind of the crux of what this loan program is, and as you probably have already heard with the interest issue, this is really what we're actually focusing on. So what are we proposing? What is our mandate as an organization that advocates to make preventing and ending genocide a cornerstone of Canada's foreign and domestic policy? As all of you probably know, Iraq and Syria is one of 4 of our focus regions, which has led us to spend a lot of time researching and exploring the conflict in that region, fueled predominantly by ISIS. Whoever is not talking, can you mute your mic? Sorry. Great. So while the global refugee crisis has certainly been growing more problematic and immense every year, the situation in Iraq and Syria has expedited the level of human displacement around the world. So it's now an issue that has permeated the borders of several nations in Europe, North America, Africa, and the Middle East. It's an issue that has forced policymakers and leaders everywhere to re-examine their laws and policies surrounding immigration, multiculturalism, refugee status, foreign and domestic aid. So when we bring stand into this and our focus, aside from this being a huge global issue that commands our attention, we know that among those seeking entry into Canada as refugees, a large number of them may be fleeing genocide or ethnically targeted violence. Specifically, in the case of refugees from Syria and Iraq, so currently, the immigration loan program negatively impacts the quality of life and livelihood of people who have already been victims of genocide, including refugees, through the economic burden it has placed on them. So specifically the way the economic burden is placed on them by asking them to repay the loans and repay them with interest. So we're launching this campaign because we strongly believe that the policies, actions, and discussions that emerge alongside the ongoing refugee crisis will really pave the way for how situations that are similar to this of mass human displacement will be understood and mitigated in the future. This campaign was created to understand the complexity of the crisis at hand and bring all Canadians into the conversation to continue prioritizing values we really care about domestically and internationally of peace, security, and human rights. The immigration loans program is a very critical part of how Canada is reacting to the refugee crisis. So we really want to pinpoint the problems this program carries with it to make it better and seek to really change them. So through our campaign, we hope to engage with 4 overarching issues we have found in the program. The first is how interest payments and generally loan repayment by refugees in general places a huge economic burden on them. The second is focusing on how Canada stands alone in charging interest on these loans. No other Western country does. The third will be proving the financial capability of our government to cover refugee loans without a need for them to be paid back. And lastly, we'll also be focusing on the discriminatory and questionable portions of the loan program itself, specifically how the first 25,000 refugees from Syria arriving after November 2015 had their loans waived. So there are questions that are being brought up on why this is not a policy that has been allowed for other refugees coming from areas of mass conflict. So I'm not going to go very, very deeply into all our recommendations right now, but the crux of them and what we recommend is essentially we are hoping the Government of Canada waives travel loans for all refugees admitted into Canada. We want the loan program to view all refugees of any nationality fleeing conflict equally with regards to how they are assisted via the loan program or other government-assisted programs. And lastly, we really want to suggest an increase of funding for mental health, language, childcare, and other integration supports for all refugees who arrive in Canada going forward. So after this call is over, you guys will have access to a larger document that details what this campaign's about and our specific recommendations, followed 2 weeks later by an even larger research paper. So I'm going to stop here now and hand it over to Vince, who is going to go a bit more into the campaign specifics.
Okay, so some of the campaign goals, more specifically, we're going to be engaging in a broad community in critical dialogue about Canada's relationship to the global refugee crisis and its links to genocide and mass atrocities, furthering our understanding of genocide generally. The second is going to be advocating to the Canadian government for ILP reform based on stance policy recommendations. also increasing awareness. I'm just muting your mic there, thanks. Increasing the awareness of the immigrant loan program and its flaws among the Canadian public and youth in particular, as well as collaborating with other organizations to build partnerships in order to further these goals. So next I'm going to talk about some of the specific political actions that we're going to be taking. These consist of the ILP online petition. It's going to be an online petition on the Government of Canada's website where we petition the government to reform the ILP program that we can encourage people to go and sign up with. We're going to be doing meetings with MPs, getting in contact with them through email, phone calls, and face-to-face meetings, trying to get them more aware and more involved in the process of what needs to be done.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Sorry, you're not speaking. Could you just mute your microphone so that we can hear the person who's speaking? Thank you.
Thanks. We'll also be doing email outreach to people as well as the MPs, but just to spread awareness. There will also be action alerts that go out for the more pressing issues and urgent actions required. We'll also be getting involved in media engagement. So talking with news organizations, newspapers, we're going to plan some podcasts as well, and just spreading the message on as many platforms as possible.
So I'm going to take over from Vince here. Just to introduce myself, I'm Evan Gray. I'm the co-director of communications for Stand Canada National. And in this segment of the presentation, I'm just going to go over in a little bit more detail some of the educational initiatives that we will be working on over the course of this campaign. So obviously, one of the things we're hoping to do with this Reform ILP campaign is to educate the Canadian public, as well as policymakers and people in the sort of human rights advocacy sphere about the nature of the program and how it is negatively impacting the lives of refugees coming to Canada. So one of the ways that we're going to be doing that is by releasing a series of infographics. These will be fairly simple graphical representations of data that we've collected about the campaign, presented in a context that helps people to understand how the aspects of the ILP program that we are objecting to are negatively impacting refugees in Canada. We're going to be distributing these over social media, probably on a weekly or bi-weekly basis over the course of the campaign, starting in early September, I believe. So we'd appreciate anybody who's following us on social media to help us out in kind of spreading the word by sharing these infographics wherever possible. I think this is going to be a really useful thing just for getting people introduced to what the ILP is and how we can change it. Just because infographics they're a good way of spreading information, very viral. So we could definitely use your help with spreading those. The next initiative, sequentially for that, will be the live roundtable meeting. So we've held meetings like this before. Notably last year in October, we had a live roundtable discussion that was really informative about the situation in Iraq and Syria. So we're going to be reprising that sometime in this October. We're going to be holding a live online roundtable event, which will be held through a live streaming service like Zoom or perhaps YouTube Live if we get it working for them. And this event will be attended by both STAND directors and volunteers from the national branch and chapters, and by members of partner NGOs who are also working in the area of immigration and refugees and human rights. And we're just going to discuss a little bit more about the ILP campaign, sort of go over the key elements of the policy that we think need to be reformed in order to bring it more in line with Canada's identity as a global leader in human rights. And also to consult a little bit with people who've been working in this area for a long time to see how best we can get involved in the sort of broader issue of refugees in Canada and to how best to sort of serve their interests. We're also going to be having a podcast series and a guest blog series. So we on the Stand website, we have a blog where we post short pieces every 1 to 2 weeks generally, focusing on our focus regions. For the duration of this ILP campaign, the blog will be taken up with content related specifically to the ILP and to our messaging in relation to the ILP. So that will be running from the beginning of September until probably around Christmas, maybe into January, depending on how much momentum the campaign gathers before then. And we're also going to be hopefully recording some podcasts similar to ones that we've made previously with members of the sort of NGO and advocacy community talking about the ILP and about our policy recommendations and sort of the ways in which this policy has affected refugees on a more human level, because that's going to be a big part of our educational initiatives as well. And the final sort of plank of this platform will be chapter events. So this is obviously particularly relevant to people who are members of our university chapters. Obviously, physical events where people have a chance to get together in person and talk face to face with other members of the community about issues like this can be really useful in obviously fostering dialogue and getting people engaged in the campaign. So we're going to be counting on the university chapters of STAND to help us out in this regard. We have some promotional materials that we're preparing that we'll be sharing with chapter members in order to help them stage these events, and as well as some ideas on how to kind of cross these physical events with our online promotions. So chapter members, if they have any questions about what we have in mind for these events and the ways in which we can assist them in putting them on and sharing the stuff that they produce online, I would recommend just getting in touch with myself and also the chapter's directors via email. And I think, yes. So Adi is the chapter's director, and she monitors the chapters at email address. And we'll also be monitoring the communications address throughout the campaign. So if you have any questions about live events or online events, please direct them to us.
So just a quick note about potential involvement, especially because I suspect that there are some people on this call who haven't been involved with STAND in the past. If you're interested in getting involved in the political advocacy side of STAND, we're always on a rolling basis accepting applications to join our advocacy team, which is based in Ottawa. In addition, if you are based on a campus and you're part of one of our chapters and you want to form an advocacy team that would act kind of as a satellite unit of the national advocacy team, please do get in touch with me and Tori, the chapter's directors, at chapters@standcanada.org. And if you are just interested in getting involved in advocacy in the short term, you can also contact the advocacy team, and we have a whole system set up for that at advocacy@standcanada.org. All this information is going to be put up on our website in the next couple of days as well. In terms of events, if you're interested in hosting an event, particularly for chapters, we are happy to work with you in the planning phase, the execution, and the follow-up. So please contact us for that as well. We have a bunch of ideas of ways that people can get involved. A quick note for something that didn't make it into this presentation yet. One of the campaign elements that we're going to be working on is we're going to be printing out for our campuses little signs with facts about the campaign and the hashtags related to the campaign, and asking people to take pictures that demonstrate in some visual way their surprise, because we find that many people are not aware of some of the more shocking aspects of the way that the refugee loan program or the immigration loan program functions. So it's a kind of more fun, but still, we hope with the appropriate amount of solemnity, way to participate on social media and engage with the hashtags. So we will be releasing the campaign handbook. It will be up on a link for the campaign page on our website. We'll post all the links for that on the Facebook event and the YouTube channel and everything. You'll be able to access it, no problem. We will continue to release various educational and advocacy materials throughout the campaign, through our website, across our social media channels, and in a few other ways as well. If you want to stay up to date on the campaign, you can sign up for our weekly campaign newsletter. The campaign newsletter will have links to all the materials that were released recently, summaries for what had happened the previous week, and the action items for the campaign for the upcoming week. So all Stand Canada volunteers should be definitely subscribed to this mailing list, as well as our Stand Chapters members, and we encourage any other community members who are interested to subscribe for that as well. Do we have any questions so far now? There are a lot of moving pieces of this campaign. It's going to become more clear as things go on. In the meantime, we encourage everyone to use the 3 core hashtags of the campaign, hashtag WhyDoRefugeesPay, ILP reform, and Lift the Burden. If you are involved with another organization that's interested in working with us, again, please reach out to us. This video is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube at the conclusion of this call, and we are very excited to start a broader discussion with everyone about the campaign, about ILP reform, and the many, many ways that this can make a difference in the life of refugees in Canada. So does anyone have any final comments before we wrap? Sorry, Tori, I think you even, I just jumped the gun on that.
Just a comment from Advocacy, as this is kind of a national campaign, and at Stand Canada, we are all around the country and we work remotely. We really like seeing engagement from everyone everywhere. So regardless of where you are, if you want to be a part of this campaign, if you have campaign ideas, if you want to take our recommendations and, you know, spread it in whatever way that you know, please reach out to us. We would love to get you involved in any way.
Reach the Q&A section of the presentation. So if anybody has any questions, you can unmute yourself now and speak up.
Or use the chat if you're more comfortable. We'll just keep this going for a couple more minutes, and then if nobody has anything to say, we'll just crop this off the end of the video. Or if you want to ask a question in private, you can always email us or contact any of us directly. Great. So thank you.
Hello, sorry, I've got a question.
Go ahead.
So the campaign is going to be focusing on just the interest rates for the loan, or are we also looking at the repayment period, because it seems to be a very short month before they have to start repaying the loans, which also seems to be an economic burden. So
the interest part of the loan is just one part of it.
Okay.
We want to look at, I think I might have just briefly mentioned it earlier, but there's really 4 big parts of the program that we're examining, of which one of it is the interest. The other is just the loan itself, you know, asking refugees to repay loans generally, which then we will look into the specifics of, you know, how is the program worded? Where does it come from? Why is that grace period so limited? Right. And then other parts of it as well, where we really want to see so far, how has this program affected refugees? What is the level of economic burden they're facing? And then another thing that's really interesting is how specifically for when our government hit that quota of 25,000 Syrian refugees, newer refugees who are coming to the country will once again have to, they will be charged interest and will have to repay the loans. So there's different elements of the program that are kind of questionable. So yeah.
So there are groups of Syrian refugees who don't have to repay their loans, but then there are others who have to. So it's this kind of discrepancy. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're definitely looking at that. We've put together a more comprehensive policy recommendation that we'll be using as an advocacy tool, and that will also be included, I think, in maybe not in whole, but in parts in the petition that we're launching.
Right.
So that is so that will provide more detail, and it'll be up on our website along with this campaign launch. And then a quick note about the petition. I don't think it was mentioned earlier. So the government just launched this new online petition system. So if we get, I think, how many signatures is it, Scott? 500? 500 signatures in 120 days, the government is obligated to provide a response to us. And also we're finding that this is not a subject of which members of parliament are completely ignorant. There is a consciousness and some degree of political will building to reform this program. We're trying to give that political will some more momentum and collaborate with the other excellent organizations who are already looking at this issue. we have any other comments, questions? And if people have ideas for the campaign, we're really, STAND is a pretty flexible organization, and we are really excited to integrate further campaign elements according to the enthusiasm of our membership and community. Excellent. So everybody, thank you so much for joining. Have an excellent night. This video will be uploaded for reference. If you make sure that you're following STAND on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we also have a LinkedIn group, I think, if you like LinkedIn. And look, check out on YouTube also. We're going to be uploading some videos, hopefully. We're looking for more volunteers. We're looking for people to help out. Please contact us and stay in touch, and we are very excited to be going forward on this campaign. All right, I'm clicking the stop button.